You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Well, now, as you would be aware, if you listen to any of these chats I have to people, I like to have a chat to people of interest, who I think are interesting. I choose the people I speak to, and I'm happy to cop the flack from... if you don't think it's appropriate to speak to various people, stiff, don't listen. But I have no agenda. I just like to speak to people of interest. And this man caught my attention because I know very little about him, but I saw a website about him and I thought, wow, that is the way this world is heading, except for people who push back on it, and people who don't push back on it get intimidated in case they get cancelled or ostracised in society about the changing nature of the world we live in. There's nothing wrong with the changing nature of the world we live in as long as people aren't intimidated by those who have an agenda, a nefarious agenda to influence particularly not only adults, but more importantly, underage people, primary school kids, preschoolers, before they have any idea of what the adults are talking about and what they're being led into. On that basis, I would like to say that I'm sitting next to me is a man called Craig Cole. Now, Craig, welcome to You Cannot Be Serious.
Thank you very much, Sam.
I have really no idea who you are, except I know what you're on about. So tell me just quickly your background. Are you an ex-teacher? Are you an instructor? Have you got a university degree? Are you a layman? Are you a parent? What are you?
Thank you very much, Sam, and thanks for the opportunity to come on. You Cannot Be Serious,
yep.
The platform, because this is as you said, when we are affecting our young people and indoctrinating our young people.
Yeah, I'll get onto that. Just tell me just what background you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So since 2006, I've worked in the community, in the school system, high school, primary school, and also different government agencies and community
Doing what?
Agencies. Mentoring youth, facilitating programs, life skills programs, working one-on-one as a mentor, worked with children with low self-esteem, mental health issues, suicidal children, refugee children, Indigenous children.
Do you have a degree? Do you have to be registered? Do you have to be qualified to do this? Or have you taken this on just off your own volition, and why?
Taken this on of my own volition. I was 15 years in the education system, 10 years on an education department contract as education support. Obviously had the appropriate training, the appropriate knowledge, the appropriate tests as well as working with children's checks and all the relevant documentation that you need to work with young people.
Okay.
But it was like, I think we can get caught up a little bit in terms of the letters and in terms of, after our name. And I think the best school is a school of life, Sam.
Yes.
So
I was just establishing that you have been in the education department in one form or another.
Correct.
And I've taken an interest in this since, since I'm quite interested in the United States politics, and since Donald Trump has become the president, he has, from what I've read about you and what I've read about what you're on about, he has pushed back on a lot of the things that are going on overseas about radicalising the children and primary school kids in America. He's on to just the two-gender policy. And might I add, and you're probably the same, I don't care who you are or what you signal as, what station in life you want to occupy, whether you want to say I'm not transphobic, in as much as do whatever you like. Once you come of age, decide what you want to do. I'm not homophobic, transphobic. The more you apologise, the more people are thinking. But I'm not, so I don't care. But you, as I understand it, are calling on parents and grandparents and teachers to contact you through a website called info@leaveourkidsalone, kids with a Z, .org, about
their accounts.
Their accounts of the education department, those with a vested interest, those who have agendas to stop radicalising kids to take a certain path in life until they're able to make up their own mind. I presume that's when they become adults.
Correct. Yeah.
So we're on about gender aligning surgery. We're on about the LGBTQ push. Nothing wrong with being LGBTQ as long as the teachers don't push the people that they teach into various aspects of life without primarily their parents knowing about it, and they get home and they say, wow, where did you learn that? It's a bit like, I don't mind saying this, it's a bit like Welcome to Country. There's plenty of people that I speak to that have no idea that they're being told to put their hands on the ground and sing a song about Welcome to Country. We are welcoming everyone to country, and we want to be inclusive of everyone. We don't want to be divided by having one set of people saying that this is someone else's country and one's that. I digress, but it's along the same lines of teachers taking it on themselves to push their students, their underage kids, in a certain direction. So with that long-winded explanation of why you're here, tell me about what's going on in your estimation about radicalising and changing the minds of kids before they have a chance to make up their mind themselves.
Thank you very much, Sam. That was a beautiful intro. You've covered a lot of bases there, mate. But you're correct. Now, transparency is a word that's bandied around a lot these days. And it's a bit of a buzzword with not much meaning, because the lack of transparency that the school system have with parents is quite alarming and quite disturbing, to be honest. Now, a lot of these kids come home, have their head filled with all this radicalised gender theory. And please, like you said, please, I want people to be crystal clear on this. This is not an attack on the trans community or the LGBT community. You, as a free living person, have the entitlement to conduct yourself in whichever way, shape or form you need, so long as you're not impinging on the rights of other people. That's a basic common law principle, okay? However, stop telling our kids about it and stop indoctrinating our kids about it. Now, if you are a parent of the belief that your child needs to be educated on these radicalised gender theories, as misguided as your ways are, that's your entitlement. What you're not entitled to do then is indoctrinate other people's children into your ideologies. And that's what's happening in the school system. The IPA did a report in 2021, that's the Institute of Public Affairs, and it's on their website, about activist teachers in schools and teaching, pushing, virtue signalling and pushing agendas. And they do that with the Welcome to Country, they do that with the Indigenous, but they're not teaching it, they're indoctrinating the children with these radical views. With the radicalised gender theory, they're also teaching children, I'll just list some examples of what's happening in schools, okay, and then get back to the context of where this all comes from. This all started in 2013 with the Safe Schools policy, okay. Now, the Safe Schools policy was written by ARCSIS, the Australian Research Centre in Sex, Health and Society, okay? ARCSIS was co-founded by a man by the name of Gary Dowsett. Gary Dowsett wrote a journal in the 80s for a gay information magazine. Now, once again, as an adult, no problem. But what he wrote in there, and look, this is pretty confronting, Sam. Do you mind if I read it?
Go right
Fantastic.
ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a journal.
So was this condoned, or was this given? This was given its stamp of imprimatur by the Education Department.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep.
So you're. And you say, I think you say the Victoria Education Department lie on their website about a number of things, and this.
I'll give you one example.
Yes,
okay.
Well, you
so
read
the
out
line,
that.
But this, I'm just trying to give people the context of where this all come from, because context is a thing that lacks in our society as well too. But that's another conversation for another time. Now, like I said, ARCSIS were responsible for writing Safe Schools. Now, when the content about Safe Schools come out, there was a big furor about it, and rightly so. Okay, you had, in the original Safe Schools learning modalities, you had pictures and illustrations of boys giving oral sex to other boys. Totally inappropriate for the school setting and education, okay? This is a journal that Gary Dowsett wrote in the 80s. It's entitled Band-Aids and Boiled Lollies. Okay, this is one paragraph from that journal, and I'll just read it to you. It is pretty confronting, but this is from the person who is responsible for the Safe Schools policy.
And this is a document that is circulated in schools, and
no, this is not a document circulated in schools. Okay, but you can download this from the Leave Our Kids Alone website.
And what agenda has Mr. Dowsett? Is
Yeah,
it? What
correct.
agenda does? Why has he written this?
Well,
in
I'll
what?
read you this out.
Yes,
Okay.
good.
So this is this. If you follow the breadcrumbs, this is a huge part of the reason why some of this, a lot of this LGBT and this sexualised content. Okay, because let's be honest, the whole LGBT push is about your sexuality.
Yep, it
okay?
is.
No one can give a stuff about your sexuality.
No, that's
and who you're
that's
bonking,
true.
You know, however, it is disturbing when you get a document like this, and I'm just going to read you one paragraph. This is Gary Dowsett's thoughts, and Gary Dowsett is a pedophile's advocate too, by the way, Sam.
Yep.
Okay,
Well, that's cool. Minor attracted, I think they call that in the
minor
States. In the
attracted
United
person,
States, pedophiles now, in the name of DEI, diversity, inclusion, equity, and not treading on people's rights, they're called minor attracted people.
And they tried.
Can you believe it? That's where we're headed.
Yeah. Well, they tried to get this pushed down here in Tasmania, and there was a bit of an uproar when the ABC put it on their website. But this paragraph is, and it's pretty confronting, but we've got to stop ignoring the elephant in the room on this, and hard, stern conversations need to start to be had. This paragraph states, many mothers and some fathers will agree that children are sexual and generate sexual responses in their parents. Cuddling, breastfeeding, bathing together, playing, kissing and fondling kids are immensely pleasurable activities for them and for us. And it is not uncommon to feel sexually aroused by that closeness, that touch and that love. How different then is that gentle, tentative sexuality between parent and child from the love of a pedophile and his or her lover? That was written by the person that was responsible for Safe Schools policy. Now...
Yeah, no, so it's...
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 I know, it beggars belief, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it does, because this is the trouble with people who have an agenda being allowed to push it in a forum, public forum. It's like the inappropriate books that are in school libraries about
genderqueer.
It's like it's like nothing wrong with any of this. I know we keep apologising. It's like having drag queens come into the school and perform little dances and perform little plays in front of the school kids who sit there and just like the uniforms, but looking at big, tall, overweight men with lipstick on and wigs, thinking, wow, that's pretty exciting. I might get into that sort of thing, which is fine, but not at the age of... and probably without your parents knowing about it.
And it is without the parents knowing, Sam. It is, and it's a real concern. And drag queen story time. Look, that is one of the people that goes into public facilities and teaches story times to kids.
Yep, I know. This is we'll hold that up there. Where am I holding it up to?
Yep.
Over here. Yeah. Ooh, what? There. So you probably won't be able to see that precisely, but and this is exactly what's going on over in the United States of America. It's just got out of control there, and Donald Trump has got all these departments, and he's just disbanded the education department over there.
Yeah, it needs to happen here.
Yeah, so and they're just pushing back on all this nonsense for underage. As I say, do what you like once you become an adult, but the gender alignment process of changing young boys and girls' sexual identity through their parents or through it is frightening.
Through things like puberty blockers that they're lied to. Parents are lied to, Sam, about puberty blockers. Okay, so they're told that the effects are reversible.
Yep.
And they're not.
Nope.
Okay.
So the World Health Organization, through probably one of the greatest crooks on the planet, a bloke called Tedros, I can't pronounce the rest of his name, Dr. Tedros, who oversaw the COVID virus and gave the Chinese a complete free pass about COVID and its spread. They are just the most corrupt, and I think the United States have pulled out of the World Health Organization, but that organization shows teaching the art of how young children can masturbate.
Yeah, I've got it here. And
have you?
I've got it here, Sam.
Yeah.
It's the standards for sexuality education in Europe. And Malcolm Roberts actually got up in Parliament and spoke about this last year. And
Nothing wrong with teaching people how to masturbate. It's just at what age you think some boy or girl would know what that's about and why.
Yeah, you can see that there. Now, this is a standard, okay? This is not just, maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't. This is a standard for sexuality education in Europe, ages 0 to 4, okay? 0 to 4. So that's from birth to 4 years old, all right? They state there sexuality. Enjoyment, this is what a standard for education, enjoyment and pleasure when touching one's own body, early childhood masturbation. It says it right there. You want to teach 0 to 4 year olds how to masturbate. Where are we living, Sam?
Yeah, and what is the point of doing that?
Correct.
Maybe you could leave it maybe till you're in your teens, or until you actually understand what it is that your body is doing. And and as I say, if you want to change your identity later on in life, that's all fine, but it's mainly without the parents knowing that's going on by people who have got into the system, who are activists and...
they are a lot of woke activist teachers, Sam.
So you're calling, and I said this earlier, you're calling on parents and grandparents and teachers to contact you through, I'll repeat this and we'll put it on our website, info@leaveourkidsalone.org, about informing parents of the immoral and depraved agenda that is perpetrated on innocent children. It doesn't, not anyone else, just the innocence of children who are being taught and shown this stuff before they can even comprehend what their body is or what the people pushing this are on about.
Correct. Now, I've spent many years and I'm going to make a lot of enemies out of this, and I don't care. Okay, because I've copped it from pillar to post the last 5 years. And
from the activist groups?
Well, I did a tour in New South Wales last year, a speaking tour. I had 3 events lined up, and the woke mafia.
Yes, I know all about that. I get
they got me shut down. They rang the venues and complained, and the venues cancelled on me at the last minute.
Yep. Okay. No, I get asked to speak at functions, and I get not that I could care less. People ask me to speak, I say yep. And then they say, oh, there's a couple of people. I said, well, good, it's not on. No, that's good. No, don't worry me. I don't do it for a living. I couldn't care less.
This goes back to this whole. This is a bit of a sidebar now, but this goes back to this whole political correctness nonsense. And I remember you speaking adamantly on the Footy Show about all this years ago about this political correctness, and it's just gone mad. And we should have pushed back then, because this whole you're offensive, and if we don't call people by their pronouns or misgender them or we're being offensive, well, I'm sorry, you can't give offence, you can only take offence. Okay?
But you see, I mentioned this last week. The United publication, I think it was the Daily Mail, celebrated in the UK the celebration of the first male person to have naturally give birth to a child. Yeah, well, it was of course it was a woman who'd turned herself into a male, and the male had married another male, or that partner had sex with the male, who actually was a woman, and the male, in inverted commas, gave birth to a child, and they said, well, 2 males have... and you look at that and you think, who would write that in their right mind, insulting the intelligence, whether you're into any of that or not, insulting the intelligence of people who read that and they say, why are they trying to say that to people who have got vaguely a brain? Not even vaguely a brain, that is just so insulting to push that onto people.
It is. Now you try explaining that to a 5-year-old kid.
And that's my point. If if the teacher or the activist in this class said, look, did you know a male has given birth to a child? They'd say, wow, that's extraordinary. I didn't know that. I thought there was only 2 genders, someone who had 2 X chromosomes and someone who had an XY chromosome. And then you get onto transgender sport. We're not knocking transgender people. We're saying if you are a male, how could you possibly be allowed to play sport with someone who has 2 X chromosomes? It is, and that's the world. And not many people see, I don't mind saying all this because I can't be cancelled from from anything I do because I've got nothing to be cancelled from. But this is just such common sense, all this stuff, and it is amazing. So you say. So the governments and politicians and school boards are sort of ambivalent to all this. They just either turn a blind eye or encourage their teachers to do what they like with the students.
So it's pushed by the education department hard. Now, we have an education department here that are cowards and bullies, and you speak to any conservative principal out there and they'll tell you the same. Okay, the education, and they were bullies when I was back in the education system, okay? And it is full of these woke virtue signalling parasites. I don't hold back either, Sam, because enough's enough. Our kids are being abused on a daily basis. I mean, we have, Sam, there's a number of gender clinics here in this city, Melbourne alone. Okay, Monash Health have a gender clinic. Monash Health alone last year, there was a 2-year waiting list for young people under 18s that's suffering from gender dysphoria. That's the term they like to use because they've been confused with this indoctrination and propaganda. A 2-year waiting list to get into one gender clinic. Okay, all
to undergo gender aligning surgery, which
starts with the puberty blockers. It is child mutilation, Sam. Now, the Children's Hospital, how's this? The Children's Hospital have a gender reassignment ward clinic at the Children's Hospital. So,
well look, so much so that Trump has now cancelled funding of hospitals that engage in gender aligning surgery. There's hospitals that have departments that harvest human body parts after abortions and can have them transplanted to people who want to change their. It is absolutely frightening, and some sensible people in the world are doing this, are down on this, and we have, so we like to live in a, we don't, as I say, I'm going to apologise again, don't care what you are, but we have every other week, we have parades which are alternative gender parades, about the encouragement of non-traditional relationships. We have gay pride marches, we have lesbian days. Every week we have the streets blocked off by all these activists, and we have no problem with any of it, except it ruins half your life, because every other week you have to go around the block and divert yourself around different suburbs to get anywhere, because this has just taken hold, and people have got to say enough is enough of this. Be what you like, but stop telling us how to live and what to call you and what to identify you as. It is extraordinary.
Yeah,
it is.
And you know, stop telling us how to live. Stop telling us how to speak. I mean, a bit of a sidebar, but once again, I got told, and there's numerous accounts of this. So, government department, a lady went away for the weekend with her husband, was having a conversation at the coffee, the morning tea break. I mean, my husband went away on the weekend. Later on that day, she was called in by the manager and said, we aren't allowed to use the word husband in the workplace because it's not gender inclusive. I mean, this is absolute BS, Sam. It's got to stop, and people have got to start pushing back in the workplace. Start saying, no, I've had enough of this. I'm not being insulting. I'm not being
homophobic, transphobic, and we're just being logical. The birthing parent is actually a mother.
I know. It's not breastfeeding anymore, it's chest feeding too, Sam. Yeah, but it's ridiculous. But
the activists infiltrate themselves into the corridors of learning in academia.
They do.
And you can't say that someone who used to be... You can't even refer to someone who used to be a male is now signalling as a female. You can't even refer to them as what they used to be if you're speaking to them in context of what they did in a previous life, or else you get into trouble for dead naming people. So, but we want to respect everyone that has the right to choose what they want to do, but not at a certain age. And I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah,
it is.
So one of the things that's happening, Sam, against parents' wishes, and this is frightening. Okay, and a lady called one of my colleagues, Tess Hackett, who runs the website indefenseofchildren.org, she's been campaigning against this issue for 9 years. She had and this is happening on regular basis, okay? So Tess's story is similar to exactly the same to what I'm going to tell you now. So a child goes off to school, and it is as simple as this, Sam. It is as simple as this. So they might have a conversation with the teacher, and the teaching staff pick on the vulnerable kids. And what I mean by vulnerable kids is the easy targeted kids, the autistic kids, the kids with low self-esteem, the kids from broken families, the real vulnerable
Special
kids.
needs kids.
Special needs kids, yeah. These woke teachers target them. Okay, now there might be some teachers out there sitting there listening to this, and I'm sorry if it offends you, and I'm sorry if it doesn't happen at your schools, but it is happening at a number of schools around the country. And I just get a bit jack of when teachers say to me, "Oh, I'm a teacher and I should know." I'm sorry, but that's sitting in ego. If you think you know everything that what's happening in your workplace, you don't, okay, especially in the school system. Now, all it needs is that child to say to that teacher, "Oh, yeah, on the weekend, well, you know, I played dress-ups and put on some girls' clothes." "Oh, does that mean you want to be a girl? I think you want to be a girl." Now, and then the indoctrination will start. I had a friend of mine ring me distraught last year. Her daughter come home and said, "I now identify as a boy." Okay, 13-year-old. "I now identify as a boy. You must address me as my new boy's name." And the school's fully supportive of this. And the parents said, "What do you mean?" "Well, the school's known about this for a year." So the school knew about this for a year and did not tell the parent or relay this to the parent in any way, shape or form. This is happening all over the place. If also what will happen is then when they take steps to take your child to a gender clinic, okay, they'll do that behind the parents' back, and they don't need parents' consent, and they can also whisk them off to a gender reassignment clinic and start the procedures as well, all against parents' wishes. This is what's happening, Sam.
And this is the point of it. It's not the point that people want to take that particular path in life. It's just not while they're not, immature enough to understand what's going on. Probably till they become of age, either 18 or 21, or become adults, and then they can do what they like. And so you're gathering information and data to force the issue about people being made aware of this, parents primarily, of course, on your, well, I'm going to repeat it again, info@Leave Our Kids Alone, kids with a Z, leaveourkidsalone.org. You're asking people to get in contact with you through that website about their experience of what teachers and the education department and urges and groomers are doing behind the parents' backs, and to take some action either politically or in government education departments run by the government. Well, they're all run by the government. So it is such a. I mean, I have 5 granddaughters, and they're all under 8. And my 2 sons said they come home and get told they haven't been persuaded to do anything, but they say, this is about a whole lot of different things. Did they really tell you that at school? He said, yeah. He said, we have no idea. And if you go and push back on it, you're either not welcome to go to the meetings or so.
Right. Oh, can I just give something?
Parents, go ahead.
A bit of, Okay. So I get a lot of this from schools. Okay, and I've sat in many staff rooms. Okay. In 15 years working in the education system, I've worked in over 200 schools. Now, you might say, that's a bit of a stretch, Craig. No, I've worked in between 15 to 20 schools over 15 years. You do the math on that, okay, and different government agencies. And yes, there will repeat business, absolutely. They will lie to your face. These teachers will lie to your face. These teachers will throw your child under the bus to save their own career. Absolutely. Please make no mistake about it. Now, there'll be a lot of teachers watching this will, be hating on me right now. I don't care, because these direct, hard, firm conversations are what needs to happen on this topic. Now, parents, you have actual federal legislation on your side, okay? the Australian Human Rights Commission Act 1986, which is a federal legislation, okay, the ICCPR, that's the International Covenant of Political, help me out on this, Coles, okay, I'm stuck on this. The ICCPR, it's a UN document, okay.
Yep.
Article 18, Section 4, now that's been scheduled and codified into the Australian Human Rights Commission Act, excuse me. That means any breach of the ICCPR is a breach of federal legislation. Excuse me, Sam. Article 18, Section 4 states.
Have a glass of water.
Thank you very much.
There's some water over there, Sue. Fill that up there. And we'll.
Yeah, give me the fresh stuff.
No, that's all right. We'll give him the fresh stuff.
Article 18, Section 4 states, Sam. The states parties to the present covenant undertake to have respect for the liberty of parents and, when applicable, legal guardians, to ensure the religious and moral education of their children in conformity with their own convictions. Now, that's black and white.
Yep.
Okay, so that basically means if I, as a parent, don't want this content being taught to my child, I have federal legislation and an international guideline backing me up. There's a letter you can download from the Leave Our Kids Alone site in the resources section 2 that states all of this. All you got to do is sign it and hand it to your principal.
This is another thing that Trump is doing. I don't care. Do you get some flack? You actually don't get too much flack these days by saying you're a Trump supporter, but wow. It was turned out to being...
Poor Treaders, we won't get started on the Treaders at the moment, but yeah, we've got to sort of give a shout out to Treaders because he's copping it at the moment. Sorry to cut you off, Sam.
No, what is he getting? I heard that he was... But why is he getting some flack?
From our good old friend Carolyn Wilson. She's got into him the other day about some of his posts, and she even got into him for supporting Trump, would you believe? And these conspiracy theories posts.
But you see, people like Caroline Wilson are irrelevant and they're insignificant in today's world. Caroline Wilson... Caroline, be careful how I say this. Caroline, most of what I can't think of one accurate thing that she has ever said about the state of football, about what goes on at clubs. Yeah. The Essendon drug saga was absolutely that is the classic case about what she said about them, about the racist goings on at various clubs. She has become irrelevant and insignificant. And when you consider her husband is on the Labor payroll of so it's all just
exactly. She got into him for being a conspiracy theorist. Now, on that, I've copped my beltings online from all and sundry. I also ran as a candidate in the last two elections, independent candidate, federal and state. So I've copped, and I don't care. So please tell me what us so-called conspiracy theorists have been wrong about the last 5 years. We haven't been wrong about anything.
No, because... If you get accused of being a conspiracy theorist, it just means you don't agree with the person calling you that, who are in most cases ignorant and uninformed, and that woman would fit into that category. There'd be a photograph of her in the dictionary next to those two. So in the name of DEI, diversity, inclusion and equity.
I know,
the various bodies become disinterested because they say everyone has a right to diversify and be included, and it's not the meritocracy that gives you a job, it's the fact that if you fit into one socio-economic bracket and you're a certain skin colour and this has nothing to do with racism, your skin colour. If we could have every person with a different skin colour and a different gender flying our planes or doing things, so be it. It's got nothing to do with that. It's just getting your job on your merits rather than. So I want to know: do you have children?
No.
Don't have
any children.
Why did you get into this? What is your motivating?
So I originally started training. I'm an ex-pro wrestler, professional wrestler, 15-year career. I started training the young kids, the teenagers at the training wrestling academy one night a week. And a good friend of mine who was wrestling at the time, who'd worked with kids, who worked for the company that I eventually started working for, said to me, "Mate, you are great with kids. You really are a great coach." He said, "You'd be good at what I do."
Yep.
So we went through putting all the volunteer hours, all the training procedure I had to go through to eventually start running programs and working with the organisation in the school system, because excuse me, our kids need it. Now, kids need it way back then because the system ruins them. The system stifles them. The system doesn't cater for their originality. Now, there's 30 kids in a class. The teaching staff are highly incompetent these days because they come out of the woke universities where they're indoctrinated with all this stuff. So, and a lot of these woke teachers, Sam, think they're entitled to indoctrinate your children with their personal beliefs.
That's the whole point of this. And have you had the experience of having to counsel parents who have had the trauma of trying to reverse the brainwashing or even the gender alignment that their offspring have taken on, and also dealing with probably a certain amount of suicides that have gone on, and the parents have wondered not why, but they've thought, wow, if my child can be driven to suicide because of this, something's wrong.
Something is wrong with our system, and I've dealt with many suicidal kids in my 19 years of working with them, Sam, and over the last 2 years, especially more so, I've spoken on the phone and had one-on-one meetings and conversations with many parents who are distraught and see the effects of their child because of all the indoctrination. When you get a mum saying, Craig, my daughter doesn't want to go to school anymore because she doesn't want to learn this stuff, and she come in, or picked her up from school the other day, and she, 6-year-old girl, Mummy, and she was in tears in the car. Mummy, they said I can be a boy today. I don't want to be a boy. I mean, this is the nonsense they're filling these kids' head with without the explanations behind it, and trying to put adult content into young child's minds, okay? Can I just rattle off a few examples of what I've heard? Okay. So, a grandmother that babysits, and these aren't just one-off accounts, okay? I don't go with just some because someone told me something once. I wait to get 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 and so on accounts of all this stuff. Excuse me for coughing so much.
That's all right, mate.
So, a grandmother was confronted with their primary school children on the couch because she babysits the kids on the weekend. Hand down the front of the pants, fondling herself, and obviously Nana said, if you want to do that sort of, go off into your bedroom. Oh, well, the teacher said, if I touch myself down there, it feels good. Okay, this is what's happening in schools at the moment.
No, I understand that. I hear enough examples of this from the overseas political system over there to understand that this is going on here.
You had a high school down in Geelong. Okay, a group of 15-year-olds were brought into an auditorium where the guest speaker, forget the name, was the first word he said was, good afternoon, boys and girls. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to jerk off to pornography.
Yep. Now
This is what's happening in the school system.
Yep.
And these aren't isolated incidents.
And you have not a overwhelming majority, you have a certain number of, I noticed a Melbourne school principal was charged with child abuse for having pornographic and underage and pedophilia.
Langwarrin North Primary School principal,
I notice one of the top schools in probably the world, down in Geelong, a school that I went to, a bloke, teacher just charged with inappropriate behaviour with children and sexual depravity. And you think, is anyone taking any notice of this? And if they are on the school board or the committee, is anyone doing anything about it? So you are, I'm going to mention this again, you are trying to collate people from visiting your website.
Yep.
Info at leaveourkidsalone, kids with a Z, .org. You're trying to get enough verifiable incidents of this going on, and you're going to present it to whom? Craig Cole.
Yep.
Who?
So we keep presenting. There's myself and a collection of people, a lady by the name of Kat Karina and Tess Hackett, and it's got people from all over the country, and without ulterior motives, just the agenda at hand, to push back against this. So we present all this information to our politicians, federal and state. But obviously when you're presenting information, it's got to be credible and large volumes. So there's a petition on at the moment that the Victorian Member of Parliament, Bev MacArthur, I think is organising at the moment. That will be up on the website soon. But I also, if you want me to come out to your church group or your community group or whatever, I've been running presentations on this for the last 2 years out in the community, online presentations and face-to-face as well too. So I'll present you with the information and also what you can do as parents as well. That's the main thing, how you push back.
Do you find the people who contact your website are mainly Caucasian, or do the European identity or Middle Eastern identity or Indigenous people? Do you find that they are reticent to contact you because in many cases this doesn't really worry certain sections of the world that we live in? Or is this an all-embracing? You have all-embracing contact from those particular areas of the world we live in? Yeah.
So via the website, with the email addresses is there's no specific demographic that contacts me, and out in the community when I'll go and put up a gazebo with a table at a park somewhere, Queen's Park out in Essendon or wherever, just set it up on a Saturday for a few hours.
The activists come and shout at you?
Yeah, they're funny.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? No, it is. It is amazing.
It's about as intimidating as a three-legged Jack Russell, the activists. They really are. But you're going to cop that flack. You really are. But the feedback I get from parents is, and especially a lot of the teachers, is a lot of these parents, but we should teach, it's all about good to be inclusive. And so they're actually told a lie and on the surface of what they're actually being taught. I mean, I know we're teaching the kids diversity and inclusion, but what does that look like? What's the content? Okay, that's the question. So my advice to parents is start asking questions and don't take your normal fob-off answers that you get from teachers, especially the principals, because they are hell-bent, because the directive coming down from the education department, and I've got a lot of people still on the inside that feed me a whole bunch of good information, Sam. So education department, you're not as tight as what you think you are. So the education department are hell-bent on this, and the edict they are giving to the schools and principals is that if you get any pushback from parents, tell them that is a directive from the World Health Organisation and the WEF, which is a lie. Okay?
Under the Biden government, the parents who didn't infiltrate, but they went to the public meetings of the school board and said exactly that, stood up and said, we don't want teachers telling our kids about all this stuff, we will do it at home. They were charged in America of being domestic terrorists.
Correct.
And they were banned.
Correct.
And
that's what it'll get to here if we don't stand up.
Yes, that the parents go along, and if enough parents go along to these meetings and stand up when this stuff is being disseminated to them and say, no, this is not your duty to do this. You tell us what you're thinking of teaching our kids, and we'll tell you if we want to send the kids to that school or not, or we want the agenda changed by a universal and majority decision.
Correct.
So it is.
Do you know a school in South Australia, and it's happening here in Victoria, a school spoke under this LGBT nonsense, okay? They actually educated the children about bestiality and incest.
Yep.
as part of this. Like, it is, and there are some parents, these woke virtue signalling parents, that will condone this. Now, part of the problem is, Sam, the education system's been that infiltrated with the woke mafia that a lot of the conservative parents are actually, teachers are actually scared to speak up for fear of losing their jobs.
Well, that's the cancel culture. So Craig, we can just. I'm going to say this again: call yourself do whatever you like, but please, if you're a man and pretending you're a woman, don't play women's sport. That's the only thing I'm on about. Other than that, until someone becomes of age and works out what they want to be in life, you've got to push back on this nonsense, because it is nonsense and it's insulting, and it is cringeworthy for someone to say to you, my pronouns are, I want to be addressed as a cat, and you think, and the law now says that if you don't accept that, that's sort of hate speech, or it is mind-boggling. So we're going to say this again, Craig. Info@leaveourkidsalone.org, kids spelt with a Z. If you got any problems about the way the world's heading as far as your kids go, and the direction that people are trying to push and pull your kids without you knowing anything about it, if you're a grandparent or a parent or a sibling, you are the man, your organisation, they should get in touch with you. And if the weight of numbers will eventually be the thing that sways people, maybe someone will take a greater interest in what's going on with the youth of the country we live in. That's got out of hand over the other side of the globe, but only in the North America. I don't think this would go too well if you took it down to some parts of Europe and the Middle East and other parts. I don't think this would be tolerated too much, but only here under the name of, let anyone do what they like. Yeah. Well, that's fine. Just make sure they're old enough to understand what people are doing. Yeah. So, Craig, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to say, but as I say, I was absolutely interested in this. I have no skin in the game as far as I've suffered none of this. And I've not experienced it, but I read and see and hear it spoken about enough to know that it is a real problem, and people are just dipping a toe in the water, edging in and spreading their tentacles, because people are either lazy or ambivalent or a bit shy or don't want to be intimidated, and I think the word is metastasizes. Yeah, or it spreads exponentially. Yeah. Two good words. I think I know what both of them mean, but that's what's happening in the world, particularly in Australia. Well, significant change needs to happen, Sam. And for significant change to happen, people need to do things they've never done before. And some of that is standing up and pushing back against the autocracy. So please, I implore people out there that are listening. We really appreciate the platform and the opportunity to get this message out, because the situation is dire and it's only going to get worse, because they're really ramping it up this year. We've really only scratched the surface on this. I'm more than happy if you hit me up. I'll come out and speak to your church group or whoever it is, organisation, and I will give you the full presentation on this issue. It goes for about 2 hours. That's the depth of it. One of the things I delight in is, after I've interviewed people or had a chat to them, is the comments we get. We get most of them, I would just say most of them are really complimentary, but we get the activists, the people who want to see what comments I get about this. This will be, well, read some of them out. Oh, you'll be busy? No, I enjoy it. I enjoy it to think that someone would sit at a word processor and push back on some of the stuff you talk about, which is good. That's why we do it. We give people a chance to just to digest what we speak about, and we don't care who you're bonking and what sex you have and what your sexual orientation is. Stop indoctrinating kids with it, you sick freak. Well, that's what a sentence to finish on. That's fantastic. Now we will put your website on the bottom of this when we post it. So Craig Cole, thank you so much for coming into You Pleasure. Cannot Be Serious. Thank you, Sam.